Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this Friday night edition of the Deep Woo Woo. Tonight's title, of course, is A Break in the Clouds. With me, of course, is the amazing, wonderful Penny Kelly. You can find her at pennykelly.com. Penny, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, it is good to be here. Hello, and hello to everybody out there. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, we're excited to have you back on, and we'll get into all the updates and all that. And I'm sure the audience is very eager to hear from you as well. But before we do that, please also welcome my co-host here, Julie, from BeyondMystic Academy, and also here at MaisonJupiter.com. Julie, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very good. Hi, Jean-Claude. Hi, Penny. So nice to see you looking healthy and looking full of energy.
Might
And
I say you look 10 years younger, Penny?
oh, that's nice. Maybe that upgrade did more than I thought. So,
Well,
very
Penny,
nice.
like Julie says, yes, you look great. You look full of energy and spunk. We're absolutely
Uh,
excited to see you. And we were all rooting for you when you were going through your surgery, our audience included. Um, to the extent that you feel it's appropriate, a lot of people will keep emailing us, hey, how's Penny? How did it go? So some people are still maybe not in the loop as to what happened and
right.
where you are today. So to the extent that you feel comfortable sharing,
Oh,
could
yeah.
you give them a few updates?
Sure. And I think it would be good for people to know that you can't fix everything with consciousness. So, sometimes you need to just go get help. So I was doing pretty well, I thought, feeling healthy, feeling sassy as ever. And I woke up on February 13th. It was a Monday. I remember rolling over and looking at the clock and seeing it was 7:33 a.m. The instant that I opened my eyes, I was aware of the cerebral pain. Oh my God. And it was not a little pain. It was one of those can hardly breathe. And and so I rolled back over and was like, okay, I need to do some breath work. And so that I started at 7:30. About 2:30 in the afternoon, I had done everything I knew. I positioning, tapping, breath work, prayers, trying to get in there and see what was wrong and fix it, and got spent some time on the BCX and all kinds of stuff, and nothing was working. And about 2:30 in the afternoon, I called my daughter and said, "I think I need to go to the hospital." And so we were talking. She was a nurse. She is a nurse, and she was at work, and she's a manager of an OR operating room suite down in Missouri. And she said, you probably have a gallbladder stone or something stuck. And I thought, okay, but I hadn't had any symptoms of that. So that's a clue right there. If you haven't had any symptoms, usually your consciousness will start feeding you, yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. But this was something totally different. So long story short, I went to the emergency room. My son took me. Um, and they did a bunch of tests, CAT scan, and they said, what's your pain? What's your pain level? 1 to 10. And I said 30,000. And they were like, oh. So um, so they gave me this heavy duty drug, which I said to them, be careful. I'm very, very, very sensitive to drugs. And so they gave me that drug. And then I was like, okay, I think I can almost breathe here. But prior to that, I thought I was going to lose it. I really, I'm pretty, I'm pretty tough. I'm pretty, really good at handling pain. Um, and I remember telling my sister, when it was time for her to have her first baby, not a problem. It's easy, just do this and do that. And she was really angry with me afterwards. You liar. It was easy and it hurt like hell. And I was like, oh, well, it didn't bother me. So, that was minor, like a scratch compared to what I was going through on February 13th. And then when they said, you have a closed loop bowel obstruction, that was like, that's a life or death situation. That is not something that can be fixed by consciousness or breath work or whatever. And so, at least not in the third dimensional level. So, So then they ran me by ambulance and I had surgery. And then the next day, you guys did that amazing singing, healing, fixer up kind of meditation. And on Wednesday, so when I got to the hospital, the big hospital, they said, "Oh, you need surgery, and this can't be laparoscopic, and you'll be in the hospital for at least 5 to 7 days." And so I'm like, "Oh, wow." So that was, I had the surgery just before midnight on the 13th, which was Monday night. Tuesday, I spent almost all day on board ship, coming back and forth here and there.
Hey, don't go too fast. Where's the meditation in all this between you being operated, being in recovery, and then being on board ship? Share with the audience members what you felt. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I had the surgery on Monday night, somewhere between 10 p.m. and midnight. Okay. And then, you know, things are kind of blurry there for a little while, except for this deep clarity of being on board a ship. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So all day Tuesday, I was back and forth, in and out of the body. I was working on myself like crazy, doing my own breath work. And I had people on board ship who were doing something. And then, and I was taking heavy duty drugs, heavy duty. So on Wednesday, I think you guys did the meditation on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday evening?
Tuesday, well, afternoon Eastern time.
Tuesday in the afternoon. I believe it was 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by Wednesday, about noon, I had no more pain. I was like all better. And I said to the nurse, "I don't want any more drugs. I don't need them." And she got kind of upset with me. "Well, this is ordered." I said, "I don't need it. I'm sorry, I don't need it. I'm not going to take something I don't need." And she said, "You're telling me you don't have any pain?" And I said, "No, I don't. You know, and I'm sorry, I don't, and I'm apologizing for not having any pain or not fitting into their, you know, their program."
You had to say to the nurse, "Didn't you know the Beyond Mystic community did a prayer for me and a meditation? I don't need any of your pills."
What? One of the night nurses came in my room on Wednesday night. It was Wednesday night that I saw the meditation that you had done Tuesday. And I'm looking at it and I'm crying. And she's doing something on the computer, and every minute or so she said, "Are they talking about you? Are they for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "What are you doing on YouTube?" And I said, "It's a long story." So then, you know, the people that were doing physical therapy, they were getting upset with me because I wasn't, you know, when you go to the hospital, they put you in this category, 75-year-old woman. So, you know, they would come in the room and they would look like, "Am I in the wrong room?" And then I would say, "No, this is," you know, they always say, "What's your name and your birth date?" to make sure they have the right person. So I'd tell them, what day is today? "Well, I think it's Tuesday, or I think it's Wednesday, or whatever. And here's the time, just in case you don't know what time it is." And they would kind of like, So the physical therapists and the occupational therapists were running in and out and trying to set up appointments with me. And then they finally come in and they put these things on your legs that squeeze your legs every 30 seconds. And this gait belt, which is this, they put some kind of a big girdle on you so you can't hardly breathe, but it holds your belly still. And then they put a gait belt over that in case you go to fall. So then they wanted me to walk with a walker. And I took about 3 steps with a walker and said, "Who engineered this piece of shit? I don't need this thing. The wheels didn't turn. It didn't move." I said, "You know, never mind. I don't need that." So then she's like, I said, "Come on, let's go." let's get this walk over because my kids are coming to visit. So I go down the hall and she's like, you're going too fast. And I think I'm going like a turtle compared to my usual walk, which is a pretty fast clip. I do move quickly.
It's like the 20-year-old Penny was coming back into the body.
You know, they were. So then she got upset with me. So then, you know, she said, come on, we're going to practice going up the stairs. And I just laughed. I said, if you knew how many stairs I went up and down every day in my building, she's like, well, come on. You know, she positions the steps right outside my door. Hang on to this. Okay, I'm hanging on. So I step up and I walk across this platform and step down. And she goes, you went too fast. So at that point, my kids started coming in. I said, oh, I have company. I have to go. So it was just a whole series of those kinds of interactions with the hospital people. And on Thursday morning at 7 or 8, maybe a little bit later, the doctor and the PA came in and they said, you know what? You're free to go home if you want. And I said, okay, I'm out of here. You're not feeding me and I can't get any sleep. You're poking me every other hour. So they said, okay. So I left on Thursday. We started that process about noon, finally getting the orders written and all of that. So it was really quite the experience. It makes you humble. You know, it really is something that is very, like brings you to a place of, wow, I'm so glad that doctor in that hospital was there because I would have been dead otherwise. It wasn't something that could be fixed from outside. So, and then the whole thing, then I started writing what happened when I was in the hospital on board the ship and then back and then on board the ship. And so if you want to talk about that, you know, we can talk about that. So,
Yeah, I think so. That'd be great. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for joining us here tonight on this live
yeah,
interactive show. We are triple casting, of course, from Penny's channel, which is no longer in jail, apparently,
yeah.
and also here on BeyondMystic and also on Maison Jupiter. So you can find us anywhere there. And please go and subscribe to everybody else and see all of our amazing content. And I want to say a big thank you also to all of the beautiful members who did join us for this live meditation and who sent Penny all of that love. And that's what it's all about, being in community. And when one of us falls down, each and every one of us around surrounding her and bringing her back up to continue to fight. And that's what it was all about. So a big thank you to all of you who supported us. And a big thank you, of course, to you, Julie, and to the beautiful Elena for doing this on such short notice for Penny when it happened. So a big thank you all around. And a big thank you to all of you in the chat here tonight, too. So Penny, why don't we get into that, too? Set the stage a little bit for the audience members here. Like, you've been outside of your body before. You've been visited by different characters before. We'll just say that for now. How was this experience different, maybe, and how was it similar to your past experience? Let's start there.
Okay. Yeah, I've talked about this on my private Patreon live stream, but for those that haven't heard that, I'll go over it. I do have. So I'll just preface it by saying I came here with a definite mission, okay? And that mission was to teach the world about the mind and consciousness. And the orders were to stay below the radar. And so I did for many, many years until one of my people showed up in my bedroom one night and said, okay, go. So I've been working pretty publicly for the last few years. I think it was JSNP4 who started the whole thing, who started me worrying, you know, should I do this? Should I be public now? So anyway, so I have connections, a lot of connections and a lot of stories I could tell about my experiences with people from elsewhere. There's people here that are, they would probably not like it if I said it this way, but that I think they're working their ass off in order to save us, in order to help us save ourselves. They won't do it for us, but they're like, come on. And they tweak here and there. And there's a whole plan in place. And I'm part of that plan. and I've known that for 40 years, ever since Kundalini, the whole thing, my name, who I am, where I came from, the whole, what am I doing here, etc. So, so go to surgery, and I'm heavily drugged. And at first I thought it was just drugs or dreams or something. But the further I got away from the surgery, hour by hour, the clarity of the moving back and forth between the hospital bed and the ship it got greater and greater and greater. And in a nutshell, my people said to me, you do remember that this upgrade was going to be necessary, didn't you? And actually, at that moment on board the ship, I did remember every single detail, and thought, I said to them, I didn't remember in my everyday 3D life, but I'm here. I remember now that this was going to be necessary. And so they worked on me. They did this upgrade, and they said several things about that upgrade. Actually, they said a number of things. Let me just look at my notes to see which ones might be the most interesting. Okay.
Hold on just a second, Penny. Also, Julie or Penny, remind me after you talk about these upgrades too, what perhaps happened to your daughter, which might also be connected lately with some of the symptoms that a lot of people are going through right now in terms of shifts, up leveling or shifting up here to new frequencies. So just remind me of that after this particular segment.
That's an important piece.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll say more later. Okay. So, they said to me that they needed access to me for 48 hours. And I remembered that so clearly. And I remember thinking, what in the heck would they be doing for 48 hours? But as soon as I asked that question, I knew. They had fiddled around inside my brain, and they had shifted something and unfolded something. And then they needed to let that, I'll use the word gel, for like 48 hours. And so that's why they needed me for 48 hours. And they said, picking you up directly, they did consider picking me up directly. And they said, no, but I had too much, quote unquote, presence, and it would have caused too much distraction. And remember that, because that 48 hours and that picking up directly becomes a critical piece later. So then what else did they say? We've changed your core self and that of your team. So the team is much more than just myself. It's much more. Okay, there's 200 people on my team. We're all from elsewhere. We're all heavily connected. Most of my team is involved in media. That includes you, JC. So the upgrade was to make us more functional in the higher frequencies that your planet has recently moved into. That's almost a direct quote. And then they said to me, your blood pressure has been higher recently due to the mismatch. The core change will allow the higher blood pressure, which comes with a higher frequency environment without damage to the body. And I was like, oh. So, my blood pressure was always 90/60. And the doctor used to say, are you alive? Do you have any energy? And I'm like, yeah, I have a lot of energy. But it has been up 129, 139, 149. And I'm like, what happened there? So, and that's recent. That is so new and so recent. So anyways, they also said, we have made changes that will shift your consciousness into the next dimension. You were already operating in the fourth dimension, as was most of your team. And now you're into the fifth. And they made some comments, you were already in fourth dimension. This is why your children and others have insisted you were different. And I've always like, no, I'm not. I'm perfectly normal. And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm, just.
I'm not crazy.
Right.
Right.
You guys just need to catch up. That's, then it gets into kind of a pissing contest. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
you got me laughing there, but we have to laugh because we have to bring each other into these higher frequencies, and of course,
I know.
joy and laughter brings us there. And I know the feeling of being different. Trust you, me and Julie, of course, too. We all have very similar stories. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
And by the way, people in the chat, Penny, they're having goosebumps with the story. So keep going.
Oh.
Keep going. They're at the edge of their seat.
It's good goosebumps. Good grief. Yeah. So then they made a comment. They encouraged me to keep using telepathy. They said, you're already practicing the telepathy that is common to the fifth dimension. Continue this practice. And I just chuckled. I said, I've been practicing on my cats and it's working. So it was like, okay, I'll keep doing that. So I've tried to expand it a little bit, but mostly, I have a cat that we thought was a boy and it's a girl. Her name is Edgar Allan Poe, and we just call her Poe. She is very psychic, very intuitive, and it's working. Immediately was working with her. It's eyeball to eyeball, mind to mind. I project what I want from her, and she's, she tells me what she's willing to do. So anyway, so then this is the critical piece I think that people need to hear. Your world will begin to move very rapidly now into the pressures of the frequency change. This is the time to talk about the need for self-sufficiency. You need this self-sufficiency. You need this not because of the threat of war or financial collapse, but because the transition to a new way of living requires it. That new way of living is do no harm. One that seeks to create a pristine environment for all humans, plants, animals, visitors. And then they said, you cannot move into the stars leaving a trail of trash behind you. And so, and we had quite a bit of conversation about self-sufficient living, getting there, etc. They encouraged me to start talking about that. I'm like, okay. People want magic, though. They don't want to do the heavy duty lifting. So anyways, they said, never mind all that. Just continue to reach out to your fellow humans. As you have often noted, children, as well as adults, have to see behaviors and attitudes demonstrated. They have to hear the words and the tones spoken in the heat of the moment within a context in order to copy that kind of languaging and tone and attitude and integrate that into them a little bit later. So it said these perspectives and teachings are the foundation for a whole new race of people, and who are really the same people with a whole new outlook and a new way of living. And then they remarked that the, quote, golden age, unquote, is really a period of golden consciousness from people who have embraced a whole new dimension of being. And that's the fourth dimension, which, do I have that here? The various dimensions of reality. I came home and I reviewed that and thought, oh, okay, wow. So, and then they said, we are here and continuing to help. Much of our help going forward will be technological, unless there's a return of the invaders. So, heads up there. They said, however, regarding the technology, discernment will be required around good versus bad technology. As more of you reach out to us, we will move closer to showing ourselves. So then they encouraged me. There was a point where I was like, but the world is coming unglued and people are all bent out of shape and nobody's listening and everybody's uptight and blah, blah, blah. And they said, never mind, just keep moving people toward their own power and potential. Powerful people are self-made. They said that actually several times. That there was no tooth fairy coming to bestow power on us, other than the one inside of us waiting to be released after being completed. So the powerful self with the new potential has to be built inside each one of us. And then they said, let's see, Kundalini really showed me what was possible. And that revealing was instantaneous, but the development was long and slow. So, and they said, all power begins within the individual and grows from there. And this is what your world is about to experience. Although many will see it as crumbling government, financial difficulties, food and supply shortages, war, poor health, and so on. The reality is that you are dissolving the old three-dimensional structures and moving toward fourth and fifth dimensional structures. So, and that's pretty much it. So I wrote all that down after I got out of the hospital, because I didn't have my journal with me. So I get on the phone. This is probably maybe 2 weeks after the surgery, and maybe not quite, but almost 2 weeks. And I talked to a friend of mine and find out that he had he had the same thing. He was found unconscious on the bathroom floor in his home, and they hauled him to the hospital, and the doctors, ran a bunch of tests, and he was in a coma for 2 days, a little over 2 days. And it was a diabetic coma, super high blood sugar. So I said to him, well, do you have diabetes? And he said, no, I never did. And I don't have it now. He said that the doctors told him they had never seen blood sugar so high, and they had never seen it come down so fast. And he had no follow-on effects. But he said, while I was in the coma, I was on board the ship with these people. Yeah. And they were working on me. And they said I needed this, that I needed this kind of a upgrade. They didn't say why. He didn't ask many questions. He isn't as chatty as I am. But so since that time, there's now been 5 of us that have had the same or very similar experience. Had to go to the hospital, couldn't breathe. In one case, for me, it was a closed loop bowel obstruction. In another case, it was couldn't breathe. 2 cases, couldn't breathe. So it's, and I've heard from several people, and now my daughter, yesterday or the day before, we had this whole freak out moment because my daughter had episode. She's on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean.
Okay, hold on. I need to put this in perspective because a lot of people in the audience are like, whoa, you're going fast. All
right.
I want to come back to that, absolutely, because it's going to tie into what Julie is also going to bring to the conversation here. So let me just go back to my comments here. Holy smokes, says Barb. Yeah. And holy wow. Yes, there's a lot of wow there too. Yeah. Okay.
First of all, let me just say that all 5 of those people are on my team.
Yeah. Okay. I'll get to that in a second here. And there's more. Okay. So let's start there. The team. You said there's 200 or so.
Yeah.
And most of them, if not all of them, are involved in media.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Similar to the fact that you were undercover for a long time of your life, I know that many of us here in this community have had that same kind of recurring theme also. For me, I would go to Reiki masters. They would start working on me, and they would hear from their own guides, shh, he's undercover, right? So this is a recurring theme for a lot of us.
Yeah.
What can you share? Not necessarily names or what people are doing, but about the team, the cohesiveness of the team, what the mission is, and perhaps maybe the transition that they're all going through right now. If anything, can you share that or put a little bit more meat to that bone?
Okay. So most of the team is in media, probably 1/3 of it. The remaining 2/3 are scattered. Some are in military, some are in government, some are in finance, some are in medicine. So, and a few of them are double duty. One of my team members that I was just so, I mean, he and I were just like that. He was a member of the UN. And so I got a lot of inside information about what was happening inside the Schwabi, on the Schwabi ship. So he died.
You're not talking about the penetrator, are you?
No, no, I'm not familiar with the penetrators, but
Oh, that's okay. Never mind. Keep
okay.
going.
Okay,
We're talking about the same thing. It's okay.
I actually wrote about my, the guy who was part of the UN in, I think it was book number 3, volume 3, I think, volume 2. I'd have to go back and look. His name, I called him Robert in the book. That was not his real name. His real name was Lawrence. And he was from England, and he was a fabulous man. He was juggling a lot of stuff, and he was bringing people together that were all in, everybody knew who, everybody knew that we were part of a connection to ETs. So that was one.
And when you say volume number 3, you mean consciousness and energy number 3?
Yeah, consciousness and energy. I think it's volume 2.
Oh, 2. Okay.
So, yeah, I'd have to go back and look at my own book. So, but there's a chapter in there called Robert, I think. So anyway, so he was one example, and he was a little bit older than me. And he was one of the people who got COVID, and we tried our damnedest to heal him, and his work was done. And the day before he died, one of our ships appeared over him, over where he was in bed. And I have some pictures of it. It's amazing. It was flashing lights and letting everybody know. We all thought, oh, they're here to heal him. They were here to pick him up. It's like, dang.
And do you feel now that this team, with some of the upgrades are leading into maybe a shift in their mission, or transition in their mission? And if so, can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. So some of the people that are on let me say a little bit more about the team. Some of the team is on the teardown side. They are, let me just say that I don't want to say too much more about them because I don't want to get in the way of their work. Their work is critical, or we're all toast. Okay. Some of the people were precursor people in finance that really did some amazing work with the consciousness of the elites. And I'm telling you, amazing work. So, and God, I won't say any more about that. So those were people who were doing like one foot in both media and in like working publicly as well as working behind the scenes at really intense jobs, quote unquote, positions in the world that had extraordinary influence. So that, what I don't want to say too much, but I know quite a few of the people. I probably know 60 to 70 of the people that are on the media side of things. They give themselves away left and right. And so I've known about some of them for a very long time, and some of them are more recent, only in the last decade.
And you just mentioned me as being part of the team.
Yep.
Is that something you kind of figured intuitively before, or is that something that's been confirmed to you just recently with this onboard ship experience?
No, I knew that a long time ago.
Okay.
From the minute I met you.
Wow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's like, oh, there's another one of us fools trying to make the world a difference. So
That poor dumb
so
schmuck,
great.
he has no idea what he just got himself into.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and everybody has dual backgrounds,
Yeah.
and sometimes triple and quadruple backgrounds,
Mhm.
like medicine and government, or government and media, or money and government, or you know, or
Yeah.
education and media, or there's a lot of people that have this very rich background that they bring to the work that they do.
Mhm. And
So
so you knew this a long time ago, but did you get any clarity or any more details while you were on board? Is that
um,
something you can share here on the episode, or you want to do that afterwards? It's okay.
I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to say who the people are. They'll be uncomfortable, and
Okay.
you know, they might end up saying, "What is she talking about?" Some know,
And some don't.
know secretly,
Yeah.
and some don't know.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and so when I say secretly, it's kind of half conscious.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, you get a feeling
Wow.
now and then.
Okay.
They get a feeling now and then. So anyway, the team is almost all of them are having, over the last what would it be now, like 4 months, December, January, November, December, January, February. Well, that's 5 months. We're now almost to April. So there've been upgrades that have been happening to make sure, this is what the upgrade is about, is to make sure that we do not struggle. This is the hard part. Let me say the hard part. They said that as we move into the new fifth dimensional frequency zone, people that are ready are going to move into that, and sometimes they may struggle. Their heart may go kaflooey, their breathing may stop, they may have difficulties with terrible headaches, high blood pressure, you know, different things.
Acid reflux.
Yeah, all sorts of digestive issues, motion or movement issues, fatigue, severe fatigue, inability to sleep.
Yeah.
All sorts of things, because they're adjusting to this new frequency zone, and that there would be a fair number of people who would not make it. They wouldn't be able to raise their frequency into that new level, that new 5th D or even 4th D.
Are you now talking population in general, or are you still talking
Population
about
in
that
general,
200
not the
team?
team.
Okay.
They said you are going to lose a chunk of your population. Most of it will be chalked up to
The things.
yeah, to medical issues. And people who got that thing in their arm would have a much more difficult time getting through that upgrade process. They would really have to work at it. Some detox,
More double time work. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
lots of it. And that what those of us in the new world would see was that a lot of people died. A lot of people were left behind we would see it as death, but that it would really be the inability to make that transition, and that they would be reborn in the world that they died within, unless they could do some heavy duty work. And it's hard to do. It's hard to change yourself unless you're in a physical system. So,
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that works for now. Julie, I want to bring you up here because we've been doing a lot of work in the last 2 months, decoding part of what Penny's telling here, not having that angle. So a big thank you to Penny to add that into it here. But there are astrological alignments also that are suggesting that maybe more big changes are afoot. And if the team is changing and shifting mission, it could also have something to do with Pluto entering Aquarius here. The alignment here started on March 23rd, but of course, Pluto being one of those slow-moving planets, we were already in the orb of this, perhaps in November and December of last year.
Oh, yeah.
Julie, let's get through this a little bit. And while you bring that up, I'll also bring the Pluto the Destroyer show for the audience members who haven't seen it, so they can go and check out the link for even more details on that. But set this up for the audience and see how it ties into the timeline here that Penny was just talking about.
Yeah, when Penny, you were talking about the messages from your guides, I was like, wow, this is Pluto and Aquarius 101. Every point you were mentioning, it ties in so much with this transit. So basically Pluto in a week ago, so late March, just entered a new sign. And every time it does so, it's kind of ushering us into a crisis in society. So that's kind of what's going on in the world, and also often a financial crisis that leads us to a big, let's say, revolution society-wise. So that's more, let's say, on the collective scale, but there's also other themes that it triggers within ourselves. Pluto rules DNA. So if you go to the second to last point here, it's crazy. Yes. I was like, woo, I had goosebumps when you were talking about that.
Wow.
So Pluto rules DNA, and Aquarius rules energetic upgrades. Us stepping into a higher dimension, higher density, whatever you want to call it. And we all know that we're transitioning into the age of Aquarius, but Pluto, being the planet of power, revolution, empowerment, DNA, stepping into the sign of Aquarius is pushing us even more rapidly and powerfully into this age of Aquarius. So when I wrote that slide, I had like a big intuition about this jump in consciousness that we were all getting into, and having DNA upgrades with this age of Aquarius.
Yes.
Big confirmation there.
Let me bring the link also, guys, if you haven't seen this episode, and maybe also Penny's audience members on our Rumble channel. We had to put it here because it was a no holds barred conversation. We got into some deep stuff here. But the title of the episode is Pluto the Destroyer. I'll bring the link here for you guys in the live chat. You guys can go click on that. And originally when we put the poster up, we had a few emails, people saying, "Oh, JC, you're so negative." I'm like, "Oh, no. This is a very positive thing, because Pluto is the destroyer of the old system of control, and this new energy and this new alignment shifts the energy towards us, the population now, as opposed to the centralized powers of old." Explain how those axes are shifting, Julie, and why, even though it's just that one day that the apex point of it, I think, was on March 23rd. Explain how we're just now entering into all of these energies, and as humans we can marshal, catapult, wave these or ride these waves also to accelerate our own consciousness, our own development, but also the new earth that we want to create here as the old structures are crumbling, like Penny was saying.
Yeah, so Pluto moved from Capricorn, which is a more, let's say, pyramidal model of distribution of power within our societies. So Capricorn is a top-down structure of power. So we all know what it means, elites versus the poor people. Yes, exactly, Penny. So we moved from that type of power structure into an Aquarian type of power structure, which is a horizontal-based structure. So Aquarius in astrology rules any kind of system that has no center. So there is no middleman, there's no center. Everybody's connecting to everybody. So within all the living beings on Mother Gaia, Mother Earth. And that also talks about telepathy. It also talks about us transitioning financially within an energy exchange with no middleman, from peer to peer.
No parasite.
No parasites. So we're all communicating with each other without any kind of superimposed grid that's trying to steal our energy. So that's the main shift that's going on right now, and it'll be a 20-year lasting transit. So it's only the beginning, but it's so strong right now because Pluto, as it just entered Aquarius a week ago, is now what we call squaring the nodes, the nodal axis, which is 2 karmic points in astrology. So the North Node is our collective future karma as a humanity, and the South Node is a let's say karmic past, what we need to let go of to move forward. So when Pluto is at a middle point, it creates like a triangle, but it's a really high tension point in astrology. So Pluto is kind of a choice point, kind of asking us, where are we ready for this new big chapter in our evolution? And also, I feel like it's kind of empowering us into taking back our own sovereignty, our own bodies, our own energy, which is another also word for Pluto. And the other thing I was thinking about when we were yeah, you want to say something, Jesse?
Go ahead. I'll keep my point for last. Go ahead.
There's so much things that came through my head. I was like, oh, I need to remember this. Fascinating conversation. So when Pluto is entering Aquarius, as it is right now, it's kind of giving so much power to the Aquarian archetype. But also in astrology, we have to balance this power with the opposing sign. So the opposing sign of Aquarius is Leo. It rules the heart and it rules the solar plexus chakra. So it's kind of telling us that Aquarian is more like a brain type of energy. So our brain are getting upgraded as well, our mental capacity, our knowledge. So our capacities to really let's say, use our brain to their full capacity is kind of the Aquarian archetype. But we need to stay balanced. So the heart chakra activation, which is Leo, the opposing sign of Aquarius, is so important right now. And I have a big intuitive feeling that a lot of people that didn't work on their heart chakra are getting maybe, let's say, the harder, let's say, challenges of that heart chakra opening, or maybe it's like a faster activation for some people. So we're all, I feel like, getting this really fast activation, and we need to stay balanced between our head and our heart, because it's kind of the main axis for this next dimensional shift.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Oil Nature Lady says, what about the story about her daughter? We'll get to that. It's all going to tie in. Trust me, I haven't forgotten.
I have
so
some
this
more.
one last point, Julie, I want you to bring for this audience members, and specifically maybe Penny's audience who haven't seen this. The last time this Pluto alignment occurred in the same way that it's happening now was in, of course, 1789. That is the year also of the storming of La Bastille. La Bastille was a French prison, and it was the symbol of the aristocracy, where they would basically jail people who would talk against the monarchy, right? Or against the royalty. And here we have, in the video we just explained now, the setup for the people storming the Bastille again here, with perhaps the event that you see on screen now. We just heard today or last night during our live war correspondent show that, of course, the indictment had gone through, and I believe the arraignment will be next Tuesday. So we're in those alignments now, where perhaps, metaphorically at least, maybe the population will storm the Bastille, or the representation here of this quashing of the opposition of the, and I'll just say for this show, the bad guys around the world, that this person here it has been fighting here for a number of years. So Julie, explain those alignments, why that's important, and why perhaps it's spelling big changes right now as we speak.
For sure. So yeah, I was watching a video from a fellow astrologer, Pam Gregory. She's really great. And she was bringing up the point when the last time Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius. So that was around 1789, as you just mentioned. And we were looking at a time where not only Pluto was in Aquarius, so kind of the same Aquarian archetype being activated, of a rebellion, of taking back our power, of equality, more human rights. So that's all part of the Aquarian archetype. At the same time, the nodes of the moon were at the same place as they are right now in the financial axis. So it all started with a, let's say, financial crash. So the people, especially in France,
Let them eat cake.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the people in France were suffering greatly, and it was kind of the perfect setup to lead to a rebellion, even with this even more with this Aquarian energy being very much highlighted. So whenever there's like an activation of Pluto and the nodes being in the financial axis, meaning that we're transforming our financial system of what we give and take, how do we pay for goods, and it led to, in 1789, to the La Prise de la Bastille, which is the storming of the French prison, which represented, it was a symbol for the abuse of power of the monarchy. And it led to the end of the monarchy in France. And it also led to a lot of papers and documents that were created to give even more human rights to the poorer people. And it created eventually the middle class, because before that, it didn't even exist. So I found that very interesting, because we know that in the past 3 years, the middle class has been a direct target for all the actions that were led against the middle class, and they tried to eliminate the voice of the middle class, because they knew that once Pluto was in Aquarius, it would give them as much more power to destruct the old system. So that's kind of.
And you know what's really interesting in all of that, Julie, in the last Quick Draw Tuesday, you asked also the decode about why perhaps the French population on the planet had the measures, I'll just say measures for this show here, everybody will understand, even worse than perhaps some other jurisdictions. Now, I know there's other difficult jurisdictions around the world in the last 3 years, but in Quebec particularly, they were really, really bad, and also in France. And we connected this now with this Pluto, the destroyer, coming back into the scene here now, why perhaps officialdom wanted to quash even more that French energy, because that was the French energy that was behind their demise in 1789. So it's very possible that they were trying to quash that connection, perhaps to the Cathars, connection to this old energy of rebellion against authority. And so if you want to see that episode, it's this one here, the Quick Draw Tuesday, 4 days ago here. Or maybe it was the one the week before. At any rate, that's what you're looking for here on the Rumble channel. We got into that connection here with the French communities around the world. Fascinating stuff. Penny, your first reaction to this, Pluto coming in here, the destroyer, changing the energies here, and perhaps uplifting the 200, as you were just talking about here. How does that all tie in for you?
It kind of blows me away. It's like, I have been aware for 43 or 44 years now that we meaning people who have advanced technologies, very, very conscious of energy flows. And I've had a little, I don't understand anything about astrology, but I've had a little bit of training from my people who showed me some things and said, this is how it works. And, what I saw was they showed me a creek, and it had big rocks sticking out of it. And then, there was water going down the creek, and the water would hit the rock and it'd go around, and then it would form these whirlpools, and some of it would swirl off this way, and some of it, and they said this is the same thing when energy flows through your solar system. It has to flow around the planets, and it flows off of one or another, and etc. And that is why astrology, that is why we pay attention to where are the planets, what energies are converging, which are canceling, which are literally, being intermediate boosters. There's all kinds of, I don't have the technical language, obviously, but there's all kinds of energy flows that people from off planet are watching very carefully. You don't go trotting across the cosmos without knowing how the energy flows. That's just a recipe for disaster, for never being seen. Your ship never comes back. So there's that kind of, I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask Julie was, she said something was a square to something. And I was like, what is a square? What does that do exactly? So
Yeah.
what does that mean, Julie?
Okay, so
Julie, hold on, Julie. Do you want to bring up your astrological wheel? I'll give you a moment to do that. While you do that, here to explain or to answer Penny's question, it'll be visual for a lot of the members too. I think it'll help
good
out.
idea.
Let me bring up the sponsor for tonight's episode, of course, the amazing Carla here at Ascension Organite. Beautiful new pyramid here, Archangel Michael. Let's hear what Carla has to say here tonight about this amazing one that's going to one of our beautiful viewers this evening.
Hey everyone, this is Carla from Ascension Organite. I hope you're all doing amazing. Today I have a piece to show you. This was originally a custom order, but became very popular on the website, so I decided to keep it as one of the permanent designs. So I was asked to make a piece that would have the energies of Archangel Michael, and this is what we came up with. So it is made of amethyst, charoite, ametrine, kunzite, aluminum metals, and the symbol are 2 angel wings. So this piece also embodies the purple flame, the violet ray of protection, and the energies of Archangel Michael as a healer, a protector, and a guardian. I'll give it a quick turn so you can see it.
Yeah.
And it's for Archangel Michael. I hope you guys like it, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Carla. I love this one. I absolutely love this one. And folks, if you're looking at getting one of these in your possession, you can do so here at ascensionorganites.com. And if you use the coupon code BeyondMystic in one word, you get 10% off of all of these amazing creations. And Dr. It says, yes, my favorite pyramid ever. Me too, actually. It's definitely up there. Penny, you were reacting to the pyramid here. Anything else you want to share with the audience members?
Just about the pyramid. I'm trying not to drool. So let me keep my cool here. It's
I have a crystal whisperer, amazing woman who has a crystal shop by here, and sometimes when she has these really big, beautiful pieces, she doesn't say drool. She says, "Oh, that's num num." Like she just num num crystal.
Yeah.
Just wants to make love to it. So I do. Yes, I feel the same way about this Archangel pyramid.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carla, again, and there she is in the chat there, AscensionOrganites.com. Thank you. Okay, Julie, let's bring up the astrological wheel here to explain the different concepts here and the alignments and the squares and the tensions here that are proposed by this alignment.
So great question, because I feel that a lot of people are asking this question, but they're like, they don't want to sound like they're, they don't know.
I am not shy.
That's perfect, Penny. I love it. So this is the chart where the planets are going to be placed at the first eclipse of the eclipse season that we're going to have on April 20th. So just to explain a little bit about what we call the aspects in astrology. So basically, when we got here the moon and the sun together, it makes a new moon. So whenever they're together on the chart, it means it's a new moon. So you can see they're at the same degree, 29 degrees of Aries. And what makes it an eclipse? It's because we have what I was talking about earlier, the nodes of the moon. So this is not something you can see with your own eyes. It's a calculation point of the eclipse of the sun and the moon together where they meet in the sky. So this is the North Node, so our collective karma, where we're heading. It's in Taurus at the moment. And the South Node, which is always opposing each other. The South Node is in Scorpio at the moment. So those are the karmic points in the sky. So because we have either a new moon or a full moon close to one of those points, it makes it an eclipse. So first explanation I wanted to give. And the square here is an aspect of 2 points that are going to be at 90 degrees from each other. So because we're here at 29 degrees, so almost at the very start of Taurus, each sign is 30 degrees. So we're here at 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees here. We got our square with Pluto, as you can see, who just entered Aquarius at 0 degrees Aquarius. And if you go the other way, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, it's squaring both of the nodes. So here, there's an axis here, and there's the point here. So that's the triangle I was talking about earlier. And we call that a T-square, and it's actually one of the most tension aspect in astrology, because it's like there's, let's say, smoother aspects like a sextile, which is 60 degrees, a trine, which is 120 degrees. Those are more positive aspect. But a square, it's like it's creating
like maximum tension in the chart.
It's creating so much tension that you have no choice but to take action to do something, because it feels very uncomfortable. So that's,
you can't stand on the fence on this one, and you can't you cannot hide underneath a rock hoping that the energies won't hit you. It'll find you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Ain't gonna work, huh?
Exactly. Okay. Does that answer the question, Penny? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that's a tension-inducing arrangement.
Exactly. And a lot of people have that in their own birth chart. They have a square, so a 90-degree aspect between two planets. And it's not necessarily bad, because it kind of pushes you to accomplish stuff in your life.
Yeah.
And for example, I have a lot of squares in my chart, because it's like your soul wants to overcome some kind of you feel uncomfortable about something, you want to push yourself. So it's like this big push of the universe to create something, to take action. Whereas people that have like more easy aspect, positive aspects, sometimes you can a bit sit on your laurels, as we say, and not necessarily do something about it. So the tension is the one that creates an action to go out of your comfort zone. So that's the good side about the square.
Can you put that chart back up there for just 1 minute?
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff all in a couple houses.
Yeah, good point. So whenever we got 3 or more planets in one sign in astrology, we call that a stellium. So it means like the sign, the archetype of the sign is going to be very, very activated. So at the moment of this eclipse, we got, let's say, 4. This is Chiron, this is an asteroid, but we got Jupiter, we got Moon, Sun. So we got here a stellium in Aries. So Aries archetype is all about war, spiritual warrior, fighting for what you believe in, taking action, manifesting, creating. So this is very, very highlighted.
And currently in my chart, I have a double stellium in that house in the area. Wow.
Yeah. For your solar return, you got a lot of planets in Aries.
You got a lot of stuff going on here.
When you first put that up there, I thought, oh, wow, look at all the stuff just in one little quadrant or sector. When I, before he died, I had a friend who lived in Oregon. His name was Dave, and he was an astrologer. And he got into researching everybody around the world, movie stars, politicians, authors, all kinds of people who had talked about having had a moment of like Kundalini, a Kundalini awakening. And so he would write to them and say, what's your birth date? And when did you have that, that experience? Even if you don't know the exact date, could you give me the month and the year? And he discovered that there's a Kundalini configuration. And when I saw that chart just now, I was like, oh, wow, that looks like an awful lot of planets in one spot, because that's what he discovered. When you have the majority of your planets in 2 houses, then you have this tendency for an explosive awakening of consciousness, which we call Kundalini. And that, if that chart was, I don't know who that chart was for, but somebody's going to have an awakening there. Is that for you or for JC?
It's for the whole world. It's for the eclipse.
The
it's where the
eclipse,
planets are going to be for the eclipse on April.
Oh my!
Mine is similar. Mine is similar, but even more intense, actually.
Yeah, JC. Oh my!
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And because also what's funny about all this is that Pluto in astrology, it also rules Kundalini.
Oh,
So Pluto entering Aquarius, I feel like a lot of people are going to have this Kundalini awakening, or let's say you're going to reach another step. Yeah, exactly, of your awakening process.
Can we talk about that? I wrote that earlier because you were talking about some of the messages you had on craft. Kundalini was one of them. And of course, we're going to get into what happened to your daughter and what perhaps is happening to many people actually watching the show. Don't forget, I won't forget, guys. I'll put that in context for you guys.
We're not going to leave anything out.
but going back to Kundalini, Penny and I got in trouble with this 3 years ago. So we're going to tread carefully here tonight and try to get into the conversation. But for a lot of people, going through that experience, well, there's many ways, there's many roads to Rome, basically.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people right now, they're tapping into that frequency, again, because of Pluto here, with their sexual energy. And for a lot of people, when they start touching those frequencies, whether they're themselves or in divine union, it brings a frequency of fear of the unknown. It brings a frequency of fear of letting go of control, right? Yeah. And so the paradox there is that as you let go of control, you actually master even more control over yourself. This is the whole awakening process of consciousness. Speak to that a little bit, Penny, here tonight, and maybe encourage. And I guess I want to speak more to the divine feminine here this evening watching the show, because they are tasked, once they go through this process also, of not just healing the wounded masculine, but also bringing up the divine masculine here. As we're entering this age of Aquarius, we need to have that balance. So they have a big job ahead of them, the divine feminines. So talk about that fear of losing control and give them some encouragement as to go through these steps here as they're feeling that more is coming up here in their own bodies, their sexual energy, their ki, their prana, their orgone. Speak to that a little bit, and hopefully we won't get the show deleted.
Okay. So we really need to have a show that, that answers the question, why is there sex? What is that? It's not what the people in the third dimension think it is. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who think sex is, just something, it's to have babies. It's, they don't really understand. When you have a full-blown Kundalini experience, a full-blown sexual orgasm goes with that. And you might be peeling potatoes, you might be driving your car, you might be sitting at your desk at work. You don't have to be engaged in anything quote sexual or even romantic at all. It's a moment when your guard is down, your energies are fully open, and the energies of the universe that you are floating in find that they can have a full-blown circuit all the way through you. And I often use the example of poke a hole in a submarine. The water doesn't stand out there and say, should we go in? It just, boom, it's in. It starts flowing in. And once it flows in, the ship floods and it sinks. And so let's just say that I cannot count the number of people. I work with a lot of people who have had Kundalini experiences, and they're struggling badly because it is no small issue. It is not something where you float nicely on the romantic energies of the future and blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. And I won't go into the full thing because it's... Let
me just show two graphics here, or one comment and one graphic, just to kind of share with the audience members. What you're talking about, wrong slide here. When you have this connection that you just mentioned here, where there's no impedance, there's no tension, you have a direct connection here. It's very similar to what scientists are discovering, that we live in this electrical universe, and there's such a thing as what they call Birkeland currents. Now, these come in pairs, and they also come in triunes. That bridges us to another conversation about triune sexual energy later on. But I just want to share that, and we could probably do a whole show on that later on. But the other context of us as humans not understanding, as you just said, what is sex? Why is sex? So in the Taoist perspective, when they teach these concepts, they try to convey to the audience members that what they know about sex is only 5% of the spectrum.
I know.
Or said another way, they're playing with 8 keys on the piano, not understanding that there's 88 keys on the piano. That's not 5%, that's 10%, but you understand the drift
Good
there.
example.
Right. And
Yeah.
so what can you say for this episode here to and again, it's not just about sex, although
Well,
it
let
is-
me say something I started to say. The fear that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There a lot. I started to say I work with a lot of people. I hear from a lot of them that didn't go the whole distance. They didn't allow the Kundalini to take over.
Right.
They became terrified that they were going to die, and they would have. The old self would have been dead in a hot second, but the new self that is instantaneously created as that new energy is coming through, as that energy comes through, it reorganizes all of your frequencies in your frequency matrix. And that constitutes a whole new self. And the feeling of letting go enough to allow that reorganization feels like you're going to die. And I tell people, go ahead, die. You're going to get fooled and discover, oh, heck, I'm right back here and things are not any better. They're a little bit worse for a while you're trying to integrate a consciousness that is out of control, a perception that has all kinds of new information, feelings that you cannot get around and you cannot deny, and you cannot live a lie anymore. So there might go your job, there might go your children, there might go your work, there might go your money, there might go your thing, that your business, your family business.
Mhm.
You have to do what you came here to do.
Well, one way of saying it too is once you've had that experience, you have forever detached from the herd. You'll never be the same anymore. And
Yeah.
and the people who are still in the herd will never see you in the same way again either.
No, they won't.
No, it's a big change there. I want to tread carefully on one more little angle.
Okay.
I'm getting guided to ask you, Penny.
Okay.
So again, in Taoist terms, for the divine feminines, there's 3
Yep.
levels of orgasm. At the second level, or the second gate,
Okay.
there is an extraction of plasma or protoplasma that is not local. So similar to at the third gate, the Taoists understood thousands of years ago that there was an internal movement of the uterus inside the body, even though they didn't have imaging and MRIs. Whereas, about 10 years ago, they've proved that now that actually happens.
Yeah.
But just going back to the second gate, they were also suggesting that thousands of years ago, had you been able to weigh a person who is about to undergo a second gate orgasm,
Yeah.
you feel that they would become heavier for a moment because they were taking non-local plasma and bringing it through the portal and then ejecting it into creation. Okay. I just had to say that. I don't know why.
Okay.
Is there anything you can
So
attach to that?
one of the things that happens is that you can, in a full-blown Kundalini experience, you have all of the chakras open up and take in energy, and I think it's a function of, as energy moves up from the reproductive organs up through the body, sounding like a roaring freight train, for Christ's sakes, and the suction that's created as that moves up pulls energy into all of the other chakras front and back, because you have well, we won't go into that, but you have chakras in front and back, and they then begin to migrate a little bit. So there are stages of development of the human energy system, and that Kundalini is that first stage of movement out of a straight line and into the development of a configuration that is closer to the tree of life configuration.
Oh, wow.
So
and let's finish also on, because we touched on the plasma and protoplasma. I know you've done a lot of work of this in your career. Yeah. I remember that when Dr. Richard Allen Miller was on the show, and this was another time I was deleted here, the whole channel right after that show.
Yeah.
He had mentioned that the thought you hold at orgasm, you need to be in the most sacred heart spot, because center and 0 point because you're at your highest
Exactly.
potential of creation. So that means also that for the divine feminines right now who want to step into that role of the priestess, the goddess, and perhaps also in the healing aspect of the wounded divine masculine, they now have to start thinking of those energies and those orgasms as a tool that they cannot let go willy-nilly like they've done in the past, but that it is very much powerful and potential to them right now. What can you speak to that? And then we'll come back to your
We'll
talk.
move on. Okay. I'm just going to share that in the lab, there were some experiments that involved sexual orgasm, not by me, but, but by others. And when they were hooked up to that equipment, Christ, they almost blew the thing apart. So one of the things to be aware of is that when you have a moment of heartfelt, unguarded wishing or hoping or a thought, the amount of energy behind that is what pushes that to be real. So if you are holding a thought, trying to hold a thought at the moment of orgasm, that has a tremendous amount of oompa behind it, and it's going to change the world. So that
if you are a spiritual warrior, what Penny is just explaining now, it's the difference between you fighting in this war with a pea shooter or with a nuclear bomb. That's how powerful it is. And that's why these conversations are not allowed.
That's exactly right. They want to continue to use sex to crucify people. Right. So they don't want the truth about sexuality or what sex is becoming known at all. Then they can't what is it? Where they charge you money if they're going to reveal your secrets if you don't do what they say, and they'll show all kinds of sexual stuff about you that you got trapped into. Most people are still like kids around sex. They don't have much experience, and so they try stuff and then they get trapped. Right. The honeypot is full of stickies, let me tell you.
And I'll finish on this. It goes even further than the blackmailing and the bribing you're just describing. They're using that energy of ours to create the matrix of control and the prison we live in.
Exactly.
So the minute we use it for ourselves, that prison of control evaporates really quick because we would be using it from a white or a pure space, as opposed to what they're doing is using it from the dark arts space. Okay, Sharon says, wow, just wow. I think we'll finish there on that one.
Can I just add and maybe bridge to the next subject at the same time?
Okay.
I just had like a download while you guys were talking that also Pluto represents, as I said, Kundalini, but also sexuality. Sacred sexuality is the higher frequency octave of Pluto. And Aquarius is also bridging the energy to our star families, to our ET friends. So I was thinking maybe it's also on our path of learning that we need to use carefully our energy to open up a bridge of communication about connecting to our star families. And yes, I wrote on that slide that I had a feeling Pluto in Aquarius would kind of open up a channel, a portal of energy that would allow us to have true ET disclosure. And I don't mean that from, let's say, official source of ET contactees, but maybe we see actual ETs with our own eyes, and it becomes more
individually. Yeah.
What do you say, sorry?
On a broader scale, individually speaking.
Exactly. But first of all, Pluto, whenever it enters a sign, it first of all reveals the corruption about an archetype. So revealing all the corruption and all the hidden agendas that have been behind ET groups, ET agendas. So to prepare for real connection and real disclosure.
Very nice.
We went through the reveal of some of those imposters in the ET community falling in this episode. So if you guys want to see that, there is a specific deposition that happened a couple of months ago that really, how do I say it, tainted many of these supposed UFO and ET contactees and experiencers on YouTube, because now they're all part of this. Basically, what was a fabrication. And again, this is part of the discernment that we're trying to teach each other here as humans, to go through that process, to understand how that was used against us, for the very point of us not using our discernment. Because if we are, as Julie's suggesting here in the astrology, getting closer to energies that can bring us to true ET disclosure and maybe a rapprochement with our star families, we need to start using that discernment. So this big ugly, as Cliff calls it, this unveiling of those fake gurus and all that, as disappointing as it is
I know,
necessary in all of this. Okay, we're an hour 28 minutes, or 1 hour 18 minutes. Okay. Let's go back to your daughter's story. Let's set that up for the audience a little bit, and then maybe I'll share a little bit with some of my friends also who are going through some of these similar experiences, and how that spells that. What's interesting, I'm trying to download these words. It's like there's sacred geometry involved in all of these people who are having these symptoms. I don't know how to explain it, but set it up, and I'll try to listen a little bit more and bring the rest of the download for you guys.
Okay. So, so the issue is, let me kind of lay it straight out there. So this daughter goes on this cruise. She actually purchased this cruise in 2020, but it was canceled because of medical issues in the world. So, so she finally gets to go on this cruise. Well, in the meantime, they have outfitted the cruise ships with a lot of 5G, a lot, and she's been vaccinated. Okay, so those are the main factors. So she gets on the ship, and she's on board for like 2 days, and then she writes to all of us on, I think it was Wednesday morning. She'd been on board since Sunday afternoon, maybe, or something like that. And she's like, I don't feel good. I can't settle. I can't organize. I can't. And she was sitting on the deck of the ship in one of their lawn chairs, or I guess it's not a lawn chair if it's on a ship, but that kind of thing. And she felt like she was going to black out, and it panicked her. She jumped up. And then she almost did black out. So then she couldn't get her breath, and long story. So she wears some kind of a watch. I think it's an Apple Watch. It does an EKG. If you would like one, it will do your EKG. So this is her EKG. That is not even close to what a human heartbeat should be.
Here, let me bring one up for you. That would be normal.
That's a
normal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is a combination of AFib and VFib. People with VFib, that's ventricular fibrillation, they typically die. So so there's a lot of texting back and forth. I'm trying to do a tea in consciousness. My kids are all, calling and texting. And I'm like, what is the matter with these kids? Don't they know I'm busy right now? And so afterwards, as soon as I found out what was going on, I put her on my BCX machine, and she did settle into a much more normal routine. But in the conversation that led up to that, before she finally settled down and her heart started to do much better, still not perfect, but much better, a flutter here and there. It was so, we were so aware of not only the struggle of the 5G, the need to move through to higher dimensional frequencies to where you're comfortable, the difficulty and the challenge of doing that. If you have had the thing in the arm, and if you're exposed to heavy duty 5G, it's very challenging. So everything is okay now, but it's she's kind of she's pretty strong-willed. She is really. She's my kid that was always 10 miles ahead of everybody. So a lot of lessons from that child. And what I'm seeing is that she's probably going to figure it out. I feel she is, and do the necessary detox. But What I have heard in the meantime, just in the last few days, just talking about her issue, is several more people struggling with erratic heart rate, inability to breathe, struggles like feeling like they can't connect, or they're not grounded, or they lose track of where they are for a moment. Those are all things that occur when you move into other frequency zones. Because we don't have an education system that teaches us anything about altered states. We don't know how to recognize them. We don't realize how the breathing changes, how the perception changes, how the body changes. And when you go up to gamma, which is a much higher frequency state, you have to be able to accommodate that and keep the body in good shape. So you have to keep the body calm. So I think it's really, we're in for a period of learning in which we begin to understand that some of that stress is natural. I think at one point she said, everybody seems so uptight. And I wrote back, they are uptight. She said, everything seems like they're stressing out. And I said, I think they are. And I think that's natural. When you have a situation that we're in today with the kind of government, the kind of finance, the kind of medical system, the kind of education, the kind of food and difficulties that we're having there, the cutoff of freedoms, the BS that's being promoted in so much media, you can't help but be stressed. And so moving past that, this is one of the things that has happened since my own upgrade, is all of a sudden I have lost interest in the old world. I don't care what they're doing. I'm interested in, are we building a new one? Are we getting to the point where we can talk about the new one and move full speed ahead with that?
Somebody asked me for my birthday what I wanted, and I said exactly that. I want to shift from using all of my time all day long waking up people to the destruction of the old world to now that they understood that, let's put energy towards building the new one, because the old one is crumbling all around us at a rapid clip. So I was hoping that could be maybe a beginning in 2023. And when I saw, of course, Pluto the Destroyer coming in a couple of days after my birthday, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I was channeling something.
There's hope after all.
Isn't there a Mercury retrograde coming in here somewhere?
That's you, end of April.
Yeah, April 21st.
Oh, great.
But that's minor stuff. That's minor.
Just to mention something also, Penny said, everybody's stressed right now. We're confused. In this last war correspondent show, of course, we go through the 5G warfare, not from a negative standpoint, but to explain that a lot of us viewers are involved in the 6G warfare, where we're using our spiritual skills to fight the fight here. And this is perhaps where the 200 and their colleagues also come in. So if you haven't seen these episodes, go check them out. There's a lot. But Ricardo was saying there, he's ex-lieutenant colonel, retired, and he was saying that if you're confused right now, that's okay. You're supposed to be, because the white hats and the black hats are using all of these tactics here to obfuscate each other. But in the meantime, it puts a big stress on us, the people who find themselves in the middle of all of these battles here, whether they know it or not.
I know.
Penny, before we go, well, first of all, Julie, did you want to add to what was happening to our daughter, your friends, my friends? Because I know a lot of people in the audience members are saying, oh my God, me too. I had this, I had that. I had a friend, I'll just say it this way for now, who was diagnosed in December, huge heart rate too, thinking they were going to die. And the hospital said, oh, you have hypothyroidism. And finally, they ran through a bunch of tests to realize that wasn't that either, because that person was not presenting with the nodules, the cancers that would suggest this. So they were all kind of baffled at the hospital as to what it could be. But this person had to take beta blockers to bring their heart rate down and all that, do meditation and all that to recenter. But it appeared that many people here, and not just talking to the people at the hospital, were going through some kind of same effect. And these were unvaccinated people at the time that I was seeing and communicating with in my community. So it had nothing to do with myocarditis or anything else that we see in the news. So it seems to be, again, there too, there's a frequency shift there, and our bodies are trying desperately to address it. And the point is that if you don't know that that's what's happening, it's very scary. and you might not be taking the extra measures to help your body along, like grounding or being
Yeah.
near salt water, changing your diet a little bit depending on your blood types and all of these things. Julie, what can you add to that? And folks, if you're in the live chat too now, let us know, like, if you were experiencing any of these symptoms also in the last couple of months. I'd be curious to know. Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, so I was talking about Pluto entering Aquarius and us needing to balance with the opposing sign of Leo, which rules the heart. So I had this kind of vision in the last seconds that the heart was kind of a container to hold all this new, all those new frequencies that are coming from up there. Aquarius rules energy, stars. So kind of we're getting fed by the cosmos, all of these new energies, and our heart as a container has to be ready for this upgrade, energetic upgrade. So it feels like the heart is kind of the main targeted point in this system. I guess because it's also the center of the more spiritual chakra with the more physical chakra, so we have to be really balanced. But our heart is taking a lot of this stress and pressure at the moment. And it's funny because I kind of had a vision, I think it was last year, if I remember correctly. And I had this little notebook that I draw sometimes if I have visions or if I remember my dreams. I try to note and draw. And I drew a silhouette. It was my silhouette because I had a strong feeling that during the night I got upgraded. And I drew like a line here and a line there. And it was all patched up there on my drawing, on my silhouette, myself. And that was last year. So I'm pretty sure something happened over there. I don't know exactly where, but I could really see the silhouette of what was actually, it was kind of an energetic surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
wow, that's fascinating.
I have something else to say, but I'll remember.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing, Julie. Appreciate that, and thank you everyone in the live chat also for sharing. And I have to ask you, Penny. Of course, you know Julie and I have this beautiful new platform online where we teach courses and classes and workshops. We would very much like to invite you to do a course on what is sex. Would that be of interest to you?
That would be of interest. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. In the meantime, guys, with all of this crazy energies, please do join us also for this Libra full moon singing bowl meditation here on April 5 at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, nice.
The focus of this particular Libra full moon meditation, of course, is going to be balance, harmony, and relationships. That is the big stressor right now. If you look at the energies that are at play for April, Julie, explain that to the audience here a little bit, why that's the case in the astrology and how perhaps they can benefit here in joining us in these group live meditations here to maybe up level and maybe smoothen out the bumps here as they go through some of the triggers that are going to be occurring here with these astrological alignments.
Yeah, so this full moon in the sign of Libra is kind of giving us a preview of the energies of when the nodes starting in July are going to move into the relationship axis, because Aries is all about the self, Libra is all about the relationship to the other in a very general sense. So not only romantic wise, but all kinds of relationship are ruled by Libra. So as of July of this year until the end of 2024, the nodes will be in the relationship axis, meaning that we're all going to be asked to transform the way we relate to ourselves, but also to our relationships. So this specific full moon is giving us a preview on how we will have to transform, having healthier relationships, finding balance within ourselves, finding harmony within ourselves, but also within our relationships. So I think this is a very healing and important one.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Let me just bring up again the pyramid for tonight from Carla. If you guys are still interested in this, again, I'm going to actually give it away tonight through the PayPal tip jar. Let me bring that link back up. And again, a big thank you to all of you supporting the show here on YouTube. You guys are absolutely amazing. So there's a link there on the screen. And before we end the show tonight, I'll pick a name there from the list. A big thank you to all of you. Okay. Penny, there's a couple of things coming up with you, including this talk or this, how do I call this? Conference?
Oh, Yeah, at the Arlington Institute, usually at least once a year, I go to Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, and I give a talk. It's a transition talk. That's the title of it. So the Arlington Institute is having me come in on May 13th. I think it's a Saturday. Oh yeah, it says right on there. And it is the place is it's not just limited to local people, but it's beamed out all across the world. So you can watch it online. You can ask questions. I'm going to talk a lot about my history, what I know about my relationship with people off planet. So what I'm doing here, it's not just me. I have a little piece, but there's a lot of others that have really critical pieces. And there's a lot that I think people don't really understand about how do I say? There's a lot about the hidden potentials of consciousness and how do you get to some of those higher consciousness things and actualize those and step into other dimensional lifestyles and behaviors and thinking. So.
And Penny, is there a maximum number of how many people can attend in person here? Do you know?
Typically, I think the room holds about, I'm going to say 100, 150. If it gets more than 100 people, I think they move it across the street, and then there's no limit. It's
Okay,
a
very good.
theater. I've been in the theater a couple of times.
Okay, I've just put the link, guys, in the live chat. I'll put it below the video also as soon as we end the broadcast for you guys.
Yeah.
And Penny, I also wanted to bring up before we do the pyramid giveaway, you also have okay, so the elves from Lily Hill Farm. Now there's a PDF version on your site, and there's one now available here on Amazon as well.
Right.
Speak to that and why that maybe is more important now as we are moving away from all of these old structures and farming techniques, and how humans have to go back here to a more healthy diet, but that includes us working back on the farm to some degree.
Okay, well, yes, and much more.
Okay.
When I first met the elves back in 1990, okay, I really was ignorant at that point. Maybe I still am, but I've learned a few things since then. And so this book is the story of my first 3 years in relationship with them, and it was incredibly instructive. We'll leave it at that. Very humiliating. So, you know, but I learned so much, and I tried to share what I learned, not just about food, because we had 2 small vineyards, and I made a deal with the elves. I'll tell the world that elves exist if you give me 100 acres of grapes out of these 2 little bitty vineyards. And okay, sure, bring it on. So we started this relationship. I won't tell you what happened, or I'll ruin the story.
Okay. That's for a whole other show.
I'll tell you what, it was a very intense period of time. And when I look back on that now, that was one of my first steady and continuous interactions with other dimensional beings that prepared me, or began to open me to being able to admit some of the other things that were happening with other dimensions and other dimensional beings, and recognizing that they had been happening since I was a young thing, 2 years old. Actually, from before I even came into my mother, hanging over her and watching her walk down that sidewalk, trying to balance that belly, and it was all snow and ice. And it was really, it was like, oh, wow, I don't know if I can do this. And the other people on board were like, yeah, we've had all kinds of training. Come on, you can do this. And I'm like, I'm not sure. Here I am. And then at 2 years, and then at 5 years, and then, on and off all through my growing up years, unusual things that you just kind of, brush off. as kind of natural and normal, and then later realize, holy cow, that when you put it all together, it's almost mind-blowing. And then Kundalini happened, and then once Kundalini happened, then I knew everything about where I had been, where I came from, my name, my true name, my name off planet, you know, so
Wow.
That's a tongue twister.
no, it's really not. Each
No?
sound means something. Each sound you get your name based on what you accomplish. And knowing where I had come from and what I was, that I wanted to be part of a group of people who went around the universe seeding life in different places. And this is kind of like a college thesis test for me to
This
be.
is the advanced class, Penny.
Yeah, this is the advanced class. Okay, you go down and you live in one of those systems that is in the midst of transformation, and you learn what has to happen for transformation.
What's the term? School of hard knocks?
Oh my God. Yeah. Hard knocks, big jabs, poundings, explosions, you name it.
And all of the above.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people are saying, yes, part 2 to this episode, they don't want it to stop. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But in the meantime, of course, you can go read Penny's book. You can order the PDF ebook version here on pennykelly.com. And if you want a paperback, you can also check out the Amazon link as well. I'll bring that in the description box below. We're about to give away the pyramid here. Julie, before we do that, we talked a lot about astrology here tonight. And for a lot of people, this month and the last couple of months and what's coming up here is going to be very challenging, and they might need a little bit of extra hand-holding, understanding their own personal astrology, and perhaps also having some one-on-one consultations here from the spirit world. What do you have for them here at maisonjupiter.com?
Well, personally, when I'm in need of guidance, I ask those two lovely divine feminines. One is my sister, Sophie, the one up on the screen. So she does personal readings, intuitive personal readings. She uses tarot, oracle decks. She has an amazing guidance. She's very, very, very connected, and she's really good to work with all of your questions. Also, the other one, Meg, is here. She's my soul sister. Probably a sister from another lifetime. She's amazing at astrology, but she also uses her own intuition and blends it with astrology. Highly, highly psychic. So if you want to look at your birth chart, which is a really great place to start on knowing more about yourself, about your life mission, about anything that covers the birth chart, your relationship, place of living, you can start with a birth chart astrology reading. Or if you'd like to know more about the energies that are going to activate your birth chart for the year ahead, then she can look at your transits with the second appointment. And you can use BeyondMystic in one word to get 10% off.
And Sophie's in the chat there, right there. Okay. And speaking of Sophie, of course, Sophie and Meg are producing this brand new show for the Insider Access Pass members and on pay-per-view. They just decoded Justin Trudeau last week. One crazy episode. And of course, if you want to know more about the connections with the Castro family and perhaps the astrology that spells his disaster or doom here in the next couple of weeks, you do want to check out that last episode on Trudeau Uncensored. Of course, you can find it on beyondmystic.net. And you'll be seeing this one here next on April 3rd. So that's next Monday at 5 p.m. This will be on Monsieur Macron in French. And as we're looking at all of this Plutonian energy, the storming of the Bastille, it very much looks like it's happening right now because France is very much on fire. So this decode from Meg and Sophie on Monday is an absolute must for your schedule. So go and check it out. Okay. Is it pyramid time?
Pyramid time.
We're like, JC, where the hell is this pyramid? Okay, so a few people in the chat said, "Oh, come on, JC, give the pyramid to Penny." I'm like, "Oh, I already promised."
Oh, no.
Her. But Penny, we already gave you.
I have a beautiful.
We gave you a pyramid already.
Yeah,
that was from Julie and I for your birthday.
Yeah, this was. I was, it came in the mail. I was not expecting it at all. I'm like, what the heck is in there? It's heavy. I opened it up and was just like, I just stared at it. It's like, You know, where did that come from? That was amazing. I love it. I just love it. So
Beautiful.
Very good. So, folks, we are going to be giving away the Archangel Michael Pyramid tonight. Let me just
Yeah.
refresh my PayPal tip jar here and pick a name. As I come on, open the page. It's just a little bit slow. There you go. Okay, Shannon, you're the lucky winner. She says, "Such a good show. Love the pyramid." Okay, Shannon, I have your email. I'll send it right now to Carla at Ascension Organites, and she'll be in contact with you. So, Carla, you're in the chat now. I will send you this link here live as we're doing the show here,
Very
and
nice.
get her mailing address. So a big congratulations to Shannon. I won't see your last name. Oh, Canadian. Okay, she's in Canada. All right. Congratulations to you, Shannon. And thank you, everyone, for supporting us tonight, of course, on the PayPal tip jar. And at the very least, I've got a lot of likes. You guys like the show tonight. Please hit that like button and show everybody else what you think about this episode tonight. And please do leave a comment. Also, if you're watching on replay, we really want to read those, Penny, Julie, and I, after the show. It really helps us gauge the audience members, where you guys are at, and it helps us create the content for our following show. So your interaction there is really important to us, and we really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, of course, to Penny Kelly on YouTube, to Maison Jupiter on YouTube, and of course here on Beyond Mystic. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Penny, what a pleasure to see you in full form again. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I love you. Have a great evening and have a great weekend, everyone. Au revoir.
Yeah.
Au
Hasta
revoir.
pronto.
Bye.